Hello, everybody. Come on in and join us.
Big hug.
Welcome to the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday afternoon poetry series, reading series. This is the 132nd of these weekly readings, and we're really excited and honored to have Jay Besemer, kenning JP García, and Janice Lee reading. Jay put this reading together, and this week's reading is titled A Forest Canopy. I will introduce Jay in a minute or two. First, I just want to let you know that this is also, what is this, the 797th event in this daily reading series that the Brooklyn Rail invented in April of 2020 as a way to keep community and conversation going. If you're here for the first time, you might take a look at the chat during the course of the reading, as information about the rail will be posted, but more particularly information about the readers and what they're up to and their various endeavors and publications will be up there via links and so forth. And please also feel free to use the chat to say hello. The reading is recorded, so it'll be available on the Rails website and on YouTube probably in the next couple days. And thank you all for being here. Jay Besemer is a poet and artist, author of numerous poetry collections, including Men in Sleep from Meekling Press 2023. I think that's just out. The double chapbook Wounded Buildings, Simple Machines from Another New Calligraphy in 2022, and Theories of Performance from the Lettered Streets Press in 2020. His hybrid long-form auto-theory essay on being half imaginary is currently seeking a new home after the folding of the press from which it was forthcoming. He was a 2021 Lambda Literary Award finalist for transgender poetry and a finalist for the 2017 Publishing Triangle Award for trans and gender variant literature. Jay was also included in the groundbreaking anthology Troubling the Line, Trans and Genderqueer Poetry and Poetics. Please welcome Jay to the Rails reading series.
Hello, everybody. Like I said earlier, big hug. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the Rail for hosting this and inviting me to curate this reading that I'm so stoked for, because my curatorial vision was who would I love to read with. And hey, I've always wanted to read with Kenning and Janice, so I'm so grateful that this all lined up. Just a little bit about just to sort of semi-orient us in what I'm going to do. Reading from Men in Sleep is going to be an adventure because it's 2 long poems and it can be read in scads of ways. If you have access to it, you can read it in any direction you want. You can read it as individual poems. You can read it as one big humongo poem or 2 half humongo poems. But the whole thing is its own thing. Even if some of them also, you can also have them stand alone. It's made by a modified erasure process, so there's no, well, you can see what you think. So what I'm going to do is try to read the entire first part, which will take us about 10 minutes or so, and then I'll try some snips from a later section. So here we roll. Come into the woods with me. Among the leaves, a root. A great wonder awakens, great eyes stand open in the wood. Walk through rottenness, all red to sprain and kill. In parks, various large limbs, wounded growths, woody tissues. Come to the cooler woods to paint their assemblage, bright and strong in countless somber tints. The color of the entire season. Tiny leaves to the light. Come, frost, brisk oxygen of countless hues. A tiny tree, the first. Your astonishing search develops. Do you even notice the nation's tree hold? The roots of a knife, both of the ground and out of the ground? You find a pine tree, a floating pine. Between oaks, poplars learn the smallest swelling, the sticky water for the hope of their duty, to seek color, to learn how. Trees in winter have lost their things to give away the secret. Quite small, you will go completely inside, further inside, dark and wholly dead to growth. Run toward the center like a bicycle wheel, tough and adding to that hard, dark summer. How can you complain? There are trees. From a distance, a broad tree is a king. The likely twigs and others like that, like white crowns, big red points, spearheads buried upon a slope from the days of greenness. Within men, there are also trees. They carry seeds, their heaven carried abroad, their pods far from home. Trees like cats weeping, such trees. Teeth are replaced with broad leaves, warm orange states, and lemon trees, such trees. The leaves narrow to wind and grow. Cherry trees. Much gum and leaf, the cherry tree. Boy cherry trees spread smooth and grow on. All boys are cherry trees. All cherry trees green with odor. Friend. A face of bark on young skin, a green, moist and soft. Growing cherry trees, the tender, wounded wood, the dead rubbed thin. Rings reach farthest out to open the side. Buds within swelling, short shaded buds buried that the other buds leave alone. Rough and falling scars, and the end. A huge tulip man takes shelter, buttoned to the tree, winter gloves and his clothes, harsh coat upon the earth like summer flowers, blue and even. You are both male and female in a moss-like angle where the red globes join from the longer twig. Male and female, the same individual, distinct as a single tree. the oak tree, the hole in it. Hexagon sides and fairies, their winter need and their industry set. Wax and wood, a hole inside them. Our queer lives in the pear trees, farmers of our time, of friends, the up and down move. Queer lives never sleeping, the glare of such fellows safe in the forest. Warm in the woods, feel the little tune. Her deep, deep woods, little house in a great huge bowl. She tastes there, that there she tastes, looks about. She sits up on that, and breaks the bottom out. She lies there, only child, small with them, tasting where she is. She sits up. She stands and looks. Father's orchard, humming, nothing but humming. It should rhyme with my tongue heavily, my busy flowers and our door. The vine is a comfort, the vine and the dovecote. The bird wins, stops my work, never says a word. My red plant, rat says, pig says, she ground. Rat says, pig says, she. Rat says, pig says, bread, bread. I will. I am. Serious animals nibble, eat and suck, penetrate the men of wood and forests in such quantities as to grow years. With the land, the gray ground beneath, shed the old locks, the sharp winds upon the cedars. The leaf is done, bare. Winter's cool, dry places entirely closing, lose their oaks. Certain trees uncover the autumn, a total loss in the form of lost seasons. Silver winter states and trees, the plum white snow, great green blossoms. Their sharp eyes come in and do nothing sharply. Bells upon oaks for real. The forester calls 4 saplings. 1 and 2 form a tall, spreading tree. The places divide closer to the ground. Hundreds up in the woods, instruments on the banks. A time of falling and yellow. See and easily examine how clean. Trees still bare, look into the place of rustling beneath the shed. A leaf spread out, a platter of the sky, smooth. A baby's face, shallow and sharp as a 5-pointed star. Okay, so that's the first part. Do I have time for a little bit more?
Yeah, you're good.
Maybe? Okay. Let me just dive in with my green Post-it note here. Newton existed as a fir. This tree or every tree can teach complicated calculations. These men are sensitive to sensitiveness and existence. Men of the lower water keep their heads erect, find every snail in space placed upon the body. But how? A sensitive place resisting the attraction of crabs, an apparatus for a nerve, the middle sense. Young as the sand in the ear, the substance of irritation, right and wrong, the necessary marvel and the modern veil. I must seek an apparatus, helpless and correct, my roots robbed by cunning. We are incomplete. Nature turns, responding to its denied question. We know this world, small quantities. We know the favorite salt on the hand. What are we? Nothing except seeds. Cautiously, we pass through feeling or time bent artificially. We know there are laws absent from ourselves, the external form of internal forces, destroyed exterior of a certain order, form without creature. A certain general obstacle in a definite fixed spiral. Our fathers, school teachers upon the back, conscious bodies fixed once. We must other also. We will discover our own who. The gold road before it was wrecked. Now it appears and we will follow. The forms that we move and bend do not react. We notice, we can touch with the eye. This is the place. The modest world discovered the existence of irritation long ago. Through infinite walls, touch hands. Through communication, life activities, and trans apparatus. Something to designate by simpler and more capable riddles. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jay. That was fabulous. Our next reader is going to be Janice Lee. Janice is a Korean-American writer, teacher, spiritual scholar, shamanic healer, and author of several books, most recently Imagine a Death, Separation Anxiety, a 2023 Oregon Book Award finalist, and a roundtable unanimous Dreamers Chime In with Brenda Iijima. Currently writing about the Korean concept of Han, death rituals, and Korean script, hangul, Lee teaches workshops on inherited trauma, bringing together elements from the Kyoto medicine tradition, Zen Buddhism in the tradition of Plum Village, and Thich Nhat Hanh, Korean shamanic ritual, plant medicine, and flower essence work, divination, and interspecies communication. She lives in Portland, Oregon, and is the operational creative director at Corporeal Writing and assistant professor of creative writing at PSU. Please welcome Janice Lee to the Rail Reading Series.
Thank you. And thank you, especially Jay, for inviting me to be part of this. So I wanted to try and stick with your theme, forest canopy. So I'm going to try to read some things that have to do with forests or trees. So I'm going to read a really short piece from Imagine a Death and one poem from Separation Anxiety, and then I'll read a little longer block from the newest work from the collaborative novel with Brenda. So this is from Imagine a Death, and it's called The Forest. The leaves are small, and the growth happens discreetly, but each individual plant becomes a little more each day, entanglement and exchange being the primal and primary desire. That is, this is a communion of sorts, as well as a cautionary tale, that the distance between bodies can't ever be measured effectively if distance remains a word, a vehicle for the articulation of separateness or absence, and that in a place where the interplays between life and death are never forgotten, rather the persistence of darkness is not something to flee from, then one might simply sit under a tree after it rains, lingering with the petrichor and trying not to destroy too much. And I'm going to read, this is the final poem from Separation Anxiety. And I actually really love this cover, so I'm going to hold it up. And I'm also going to acknowledge that in my soundscape here, my dog is behind me. So if you start hearing like strange tongue noises, it's probably her like licking her vagina really loudly. She likes to do that, especially when I'm on Zoom. An invitation to empathetic seeing might begin with the tree, might begin with the phrase, I suppose. And the density of a forest might begin at the edges, blurred, unfocused. One tree falls down and we all hear it falling. The other trees around it rattle and shake, are affected by the other tree, are affected. When there is so much green, we might penetrate the picture space and find ourselves lost in the shades of green. When the person in front of us is dressed in blue, we might speak for them in a bout of empathy and find ourselves lost in the shades of blue. This is the density of color when one has nowhere left to go. When their back is to us, we might think, just get a grip, man, and then they do get a grip. Still lost in the green, one might think it all ends where it begins, and yet nothing begins again. The landscape is green and rain, and the body is obscured by the veil of moisture, and the green is obscured by eyes looking, and the edges blur again as the cow moves slowly. The periphery is unreliable, the cow is unreliable, the spectator is unreliable, the rain is unreliable, empathy is unreliable. I remember the feeling of being alive. I feel something, yet find myself located here. It isn't so green here. Neither am I welcomed by the intimacy of the rain. Neither has it ended yet. Neither has it begun. So I'm gonna read, this might be non-linear, and this novel is pretty non-linear. So this is a roundtable unanimous dreamers chime in that Brenda Iijima and I actually started by passing a notebook back and forth at a conference at UC Davis, and then started writing in a Google Doc during the pandemic, and then became this very strange creature of a book. So all sorts of things happen in it, but a lot of what was happening in our environment, including the protests and fires and the coronavirus, are also all characters in this landscape. So I'll just say that. And okay. A squirrel emerges from the thick foliage, scraping paw sounds on the bark. The sun has not risen yet, but one wouldn't necessarily describe it as dark outside. It is a beckoning, a portal, the darkness lifting. But then again, hasn't the darkness been lifting all along? Our eyes perhaps just weren't attuned to detect the subtle transition. The cat convenes with the squirrels. Juveniles and adults all gather for seeds in the morning. The cat has sat with the squirrels for many years this way. He licks his hind legs, bites his tail repeatedly to clean his fur. He dreams of the jaguar, and the jaguar dreams of him. They have never met, cat and jaguar. The squirrels and the cat dream together and hold the space of the garden. Insects fly through the garden, bees hover around the squirrels and the cat. The soil is teeming with microorganisms actively building their world. Banana peels are decomposing in the soil, and the salad greens are interesting to the hornets. The garden world intersects with the city world by being always here within, but also by holding a space that is quite different. The squirrel elder that died several months ago is completely gone. Her bones were chewed up by another member of this garden community. The jaguar goes about eating their prey by eating the eyes first. Prey. Has the lettuce been preyed upon? Now is the time for a conceptual change, and the language to make it happen could be uncovered in the soil, in the garden, from the cats, from the squirrels. The summer is hot, and that heat revolutionizes the climate. Even tied down, the tomato plants can reach for anything. The dandelion seeds are still and already a reminder of every journey one must go through. When the squirrel wipes his paws in the dirt, he spreads the dandelion seeds, the moss spores, the soil. The entanglement of particles is also the climate, the mixture of breath and air. The cat breathes in, the insects buzzing and flying around the flower buds. The cat breathes out, the soil yet teeming, the soil yet building, being built, being and becoming already and always. The squirrel breathes in, and the tomato plant breathes out. The squirrel breathes out, and the moss breathes in. Who remembers the flicker of the flame before the darkness settled down to keep us warm? Who remembers the bright lights above that held the distance at bay, that kept distance like keeping time on a watch? Who remembers what it was like when everything was lit and translucent and we could see each other, see through each other as clearly as we see each other now? The heat is intense. The heat is particularly intense at the poles. Ice many millennia thick is melting, and what is uncovered is darkness, a core of darkness that merges with the darkness of the oceans. The darkness of the squirrel's memory has converged with the cat's pineal gland secretions. The Milky Way is an aura that is a form of darkness pulsating with light. Now that the heat is upon us, we become sluggish and listless or agitated and violent. An itchiness pervades. Did she rub against the poisonous plant? How is the body adapting to the increase in heat? Heartbeats are more pronounced. The desert is expanding, and with it, vocabulary is shrinking. Is this true? The opposite is also possible. Language could be expanding to describe the conditions of its emergence. Language is a special kind of translucency. One can look into and through objects and concepts with language and also enforce an opacity that is self-reflective or deflective and means something besides its literal interpretation. Now is the time to develop a proficiency in soil's ability to shelter micro-reality within itself. The creation and production of soil is the creation and production of sky, worlds not held down by gravity. Turn your gaze to the synecdoche of soil because a cosmological understanding requires this. The portal is in the clay pot, with the boiling dreams and variables of blue, gray whale song, and braised pork. The portal is in the lymphatic system, mycorrhizal threads that reach out and strangle insects and feed monumental trees. The portal is in the iris, crystalline perception that makes out yellow as yellow, fire as fire, water as fluidic and amniotic protuberances that reach out suddenly like the whale's tails that slap out of the water before dipping back in. The portal is in the girl's hands, closed like fists, reaching out for something, opening to reveal what she is holding, something luminous and magical, yet invisible to nearly everyone who wonders what she holds so preciously. The portal is in the sky, splitting off of clouds and majestic sun rays peeking down like in a kitschy Thomas Kincaid painting. Even the crows know to congregate around the bird bath in wait, always in wait, listening to floating voices of the dead. The portal is in the pine cone, containing worlds and so easily stepped on, the crunching of a sneaker on the dry and brittle pine cone on the sidewalk. The inner self is released and the portal is sealed again. One bent paperclip looks at a shiny new paperclip and thinks, what a monster, but falls in love anyway with the acceptance that they will never be used for the same purpose or exist in the same paper landscape. One to be used to hold important documents together, the other to clean out debris from the small openings on the dirty stovetop. Radiant lights that don't ask any questions but insist on crossing thresholds, flitting in through doors, windows, entryways, anything that resembles an opening, a passageway, a portal. These aren't entrances or exits they announce, these are vibrations. A sea and a wave, and a sea and a wave, and the look of the sea that belongs near the wave, and the kinship between the waves ebbing back into the sea, and the soft patterns that they leave behind on the sand. And I'll stop there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Janice. And our third and final reader will be JP García. Kenning is an Afro-Absurdist diarist, humorist, performer, and tragedian. He's the author of What Place Meant from West Vine Press, With from Really Serious Literature, Ghost Notes from Spiral Editions, and Suffused from If and Only If Press. He's also an editor at Rigorous and Dream Pop Press. Please welcome Kenning to the Brooklyn Rail reading series.
We were in for a penny. We are now inquiring about that pound. Could be dangerous without ever feeling it that way. Danger can go undetected, under the radar, and we are off the grid and then back on it again. Can't give up the thrill of going away. Can't give up the sense of being hooked on being seen. We need to get our fix of perception, not our faces. No, that's so passe, but the idea of ourselves. That's a la mode, kiddos. Take a look at the thoughts on them, the thoughts of those two selves. Nothing so great as to not be forgotten, but enough to catch an eye. Real middle of the road shit. The chicken is considering its decision halfway through its quest, but there is no other side. It's all one-sided and one-dimensional and first person too. The chicken's story is told by an unreliable narrator who has no real first-hand experiences to speak of. Almost isn't subtle. Michael Dyson stomping the goy. How do we heal and why? Installing and downloading. It's all taking too damn long. We can't wait. We don't want to stay, not even for just a little bit longer. We need this upgrade, but at what cost? Less than words, more than a thought. Intra-thin. Infra-thin is so outward and in between. Intra-thin is so inside and so astral, telepathic, intuitive, not collectively known, but understood, experienced, not common sense, but maybe a common sensing. We know what it is. We've been making friends. We are in love with the imaginary, but we keep it platonic. Our tomorrow's brighter than our yesterday or today, but who can guarantee that our day after tomorrow won't be worse than our day before yesterday? Benedict Arafeev, Moscow Station. When reason pushes us into the abyss, It is the absurd that saves us in every instance. Benjamin Fontaine, Existential Monday. We switch glasses. We reframe what is up close and what is far away. We filter out certain wavelengths. Jesus died for our sins, but we want our sins back. We refuse to let such transgressions be taken to the grave. These are neither an albatross nor a millstone, but yet another heart on a sleeve. Duplication is not representation. Nonsense is not the same as the absurd. Repetition is not same old, but new old, almost, almost. Exactitude is a science that reality has refused to master, but is still given some thought to. Walking on a cold day, on its surface, upon the cold itself, upon the day, we know us better than that. Heard it from a cloud who had a breeze to tell. We know us better than that. A breeze as a tell, holding nothing, showing less, bet. We know us better than that. We are the most we type of we that we could ever be, that anyone and any other could be. Now, where would the vague idea of our feelings about things belong? Brian Eno, A Year with Swollen Appendices. We are merely natured. We are not natural. Who is these days? We are not good natured. Not in this economy. We are not acting in good faith. We don't say goodbye and we don't say goodnight. When we say have a good day, it's just one of us and our bad habits. We were in doubt. We are still in danger. We will never know what to do. We had a falling out with passion. To be honest, we never did fuck with passion. Passion was never one to text, DM, but just to see around town and finish a drink with, ashamed and shameless. All tricks are worn on the sleeve. And this is from Ghost Notes. The first part was, well, there we go. The first one there was a series I'm working on of combining the idea of the Crónica and the New Niña, which are two forms from Spain. Obviously, the New Niña is way older and not really used in Spain much, but maybe still in parts of the Arab world. It's a mix between the letter and the poem, and the Crónica is kind of a mix between a letter and journalism, or a letter and poem, depending on which way you want to go. There are different versions of that. Anyway, you can look up both later. Cherish the craft, throw away the art. An aggregate of qualities, a quantum with a shape. None is entirely actual, none entirely lacking in actuality. Martin Buber, I am that. Nothing was all of a sudden. No suddenness, no things, nothing. Slow, dissolving life and time under the tongue of experience or inexperience. Nothing ruins a day more so than the day. The everydayness of every day, but there are close seconds, and that is the company that is being kept or cannot be released. The company that just won't go back in the water. The company that doesn't understand its freedom to leave. And the company of hopes that are not dreams and won't disappear as the day carries on, but instead intensifies until sleep can transform the hopes into more hopeful realities that will be broken upon waking, shattered. The spirit is broken again and again, even more than the heart is. There is no alone, there is only without. Destiny is to be pulverized. Jan Kerouac, A Life in Memory. Everything is going to be all right. To be ground down to dust is a new way of life to most, but to those who will let the wind control every aspect of destiny, it's okay. It's preferred to be light, to be small, to be slight, to let invisible hands play with fate, and slight tricks are sometimes treats also. These words only disguise a blueberry pie. Andre Breton, Arcanum 17. Is peace on earth a selfish prayer? What if there is so much more out there that depends upon conflict here? Might as well be selfish on both a grand scale and over some petty shit. Nothing too harsh, nothing too much, but just a little divine push. If the cosmos can't accommodate the little things, then how is it supposed to handle the big shit? Happiness, a kind of suffering and continuous misery. Joy bursts violent, unglues. Jeudi across borders. Could have been someone. Could never have been anybody else though, and that's a problem. The issue, the first issue in the series, that will be ongoing into and past death. Tension and elasticity are two forces mutually complementary, which life brings into play on reversion, laughter. This is all post-memory. These feelings are informed and malcontent. Would it turn back time with a wish, nor otherwise? Time is never free and can never be set as such. Well, I apologize for that technical difficulty, and I will just read a couple of things from Suffused, and yeah, shit happens, I guess.
Take your time.
Such as technology, and I've been having really bad luck with that. Honestly, like both AWP and NOLA had technology problems. This is like my thing now. All right, so here we go. It'll also be kind of collagey and quotes, et cetera, et cetera. So this is from Suffused. I called it an anti-novella in the sense that it's auto-fiction, but I consider everything to be diary. Let's just go run with that. Okay, anyway. Dear Diary, the only person one should compare oneself to is the one self that one thought one could be when one was drunk, when one was near death, when one was high as fuck, when one was almost out of hope, when one was as full as ever, when one raised on oneself and said what was possible for oneself. Music. Trouble, oh trouble, slept the whole day away again. Music softly continues. Nothing is slower or lovelier than a book that knows how to reproduce. Tan Lin, 7 controlled vocabularies and obituary. Their characters. Rule 1, as so stated by Pecan Slim, always be a stranger. Rule 2, as so stated by Yuka Jones, never feel at home anywhere. Stillness. Not even the leaves are falling. No songs calling out across the evening sky. This moment will pass. This moment is not being carefully observed. The memorizing/analyzing is undoing another sense of stillness. Always want to be watching. Take note. Being sure always to make a point of missing the point. Some folks got no vision. Those folks are called heroes. Heroes always take shit too personally. Perhaps this is how duty works, or nobility, or honor, or some shit of that nature. But what separates an enemy or an antagonist from a villain is creativity and innovation, but also a deep connection with that which is intrinsic, inherent. Villains are in touch with nature. Heroes are so artificial. Villains came with the earth itself and require no inspiration nor muse. The calling to oppose is already ingrained in these folks from conception. There is nothing wrong with being a monster. In fact, those creatures that cause blood to run cold are some of the fiercest fighters and survivors. The zombie only knew this now. This is what rebirth was all about. If originally a cancer, the death day was a new birthday. The Yarzite marked a whole new chart. The numerology changed. What happens now has nothing to do with the moon, but has moved on to some new inner workings of some other planet. The stars never pause. The cosmos is constantly changing plans. Destiny is nothing to consider for the zombie. It is what it is, finally. Fairies upset the balance all the time. The Fae have taken too much shit and don't give a fuck anymore, to be honest. Ears to the ground, waiting on some news, any news, something less boring than what's going on around here. Messages come in with nothing to say. Responding because sometimes there is a desire to talk. Coverage is too good nowadays. Wish more signals went out. Some things went undelivered. The other person doesn't get the references anyway. Might as well give the nothingness a chance to have a bit of a laugh. Sensual and sexual can become the same thing. People can be pictures, images, art, sculptures, a show, a TV show, a series, something to observe and fall in love with at a very distinct distance. Dear Diary, this is not a dream. It's the truth of the unspoken. It's beyond understanding and communicating, but it's real. It's no nightmare, has no negative connotations. It just is. It is unjust in its unjustness, but it is. And I'll stop there. Thank you. Apologies again.
Thanks so much, Kenny. Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Jay. Thanks for the readings. Thanks, Jay, for putting this all together. And thank you all for being here. This is really terrific. Now we'll do the thing we do at the end of the readings where everybody will get their mics thrown open and we can say hello and goodbye and head off into the next several dimensions.
Great to see everybody.
So
Thank
much,
you,
everybody. That was
Thank
amazing.
you all.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks,
Jay.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Love the
Jay.
background.
Thank you, Shannon.
Nodding.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.